Welcome to week 10. We're about to cover probably one of the most important parts of the market. I know everything you learned last week probably has your head spinning around a little bit, maybe feeling a little overwhelmed, but you're now starting to learn the different intricacies of the market beyond just finding the signals. So this week what we're going to do is go in and figure out where to place our stops once we're in the market. I think that's one of the hardest parts for traders, or the hardest thing to do for traders. Once they get into trade, they don't know where to get out. They stay in for their losses and they get out of their winners. So we're going to spend a lot of time going over charts day by day, making executive decisions, and learning how and where to place your stops. Remember, in trading, we trade our belief system. So every time you place a stop or every time you get in a trade, you are trading your belief system. So it's very important that you have a good basis and that you have a lot of different options to go with, and that you understand why you're using these options or why you're placing these stops and the reason that you're placing them. So let's go ahead and take a look and see what our goal is for the week. The goal is to learn the 4 different methods of placing stops, and then on Friday we're going to learn how to fill out this Profitability Trading Partner. Let's go ahead and get started. So for day 1, the goal is to learn how to use the red and the green line stops for being in the market. The red and green line, I'm referring to are of the gator. The red line is the gator's teeth, and the green line are the gator's lips. By using the gator, you will never be left out of any significant trend. And the gator is used for many things beyond just allowing you to know what side of the market you want to be on. We also use it to place our stops. All stops that are used with the gator will be placed as stop-close onlys. First one we want to look at is the red line stop. The red line stop is the one you want to use when you feel like you are in a trend. This is the stop that is used to hang in there, to be in there long term. What you'll notice in the market is many times the market breathes. You're going to see the market pull down or go in one direction, and then it's going to pull back like it's taking in a breath. When that happens, most of the time, the red line, if you're in a good trend, the red line will keep you in. Many times, and because it's stop close only, it will keep you in. Many times the market will rise up within the mouth of the gator, as you see here, but it doesn't close beyond that. It closes below it. So the red line is a stop close only, and it's meant to keep you in a trend. Now notice we have none of the magic bullets present. Once you start seeing magic bullets present, you may want to change your stop. Here's another example. If you look here at the AO, look how it's increasing. We have no divergence, the AC is accelerating, and the gator's mouth is wide open. This is where you want to be in. This is a great place to use the red line stop. Now you see the area circled. This is where you might consider changing because of the angle of the price bars against the angle of the gator's mouth. You may want to move your stop up. We're also going to talk about some other options. But the gator, notice here, I want you to notice that how long the gator was asleep. Notice these saddle points. How long the AC and the AO were balanced at the 0 line. That's what we refer to as the saddle point. Almost every chart I've ever looked at, or every market I've ever seen, the longer the gator slept, the more explosive the move was when he came out of his mouth. Now granted, there's a lot of whipsaws in there if you don't have a good technique to avoid that choppy area, but once it comes out of the mouth and you see the gator open like this, usually it's quite a big trend. Nice move, someplace that you definitely want to be. Now here's a chart that I've split it up. You're going to use the red line and the green line stop. In the beginning of the trend, you notice that you had your alligator was asleep, you had a fractal up, and then you were in the market. Then the market goes up, and you see notice the area with the first circle that I have here. At this point, you didn't have any divergence. The market pulled back, and actually the price bars pulled down and closed below the green line, but they did not close below the red line. At this point, you've been real happy with the red line stop. Then here, notice you're starting to have some divergence. You see changes. The AC is changing. The AO has changed. This is a point when I'm probably going to take my red line stop, or I know I will always take my red line stop, and I'm going to move it to a green line, because I do not want to get caught. If I've been in this move and I have a lot of profit in, I don't want to turn a winning trade into a losing trade because I have not placed a stop in a good spot. Here's another chart. Here, as you see, I pointed out, using the red line would have kept you in. In that entire circled area, none of those bars ever closed below the red line. You had your fractal up at the beginning of the move, clearly outside of the gator's mouth. And notice these carrots. If you see the carrots on top, those are fractals. But with CQG, it does not mark all of the fractals. What you'll see there is the most recently completed fractal or fractals that have been hit. So if you notice a fractal has not been marked, that doesn't mean it's not a fractal. That just means it's not one of the things I've just mentioned. But you notice at the end where you have an arrow pointing to the end of the AO, you have divergence. Once you have divergence, you're going to want to change your stop from a red line and probably pull it down to a green line. You're going to want to start looking for your magic bullets. In this chart, we've got a green line stop. The first reason we started using the green line stop was the difference of the angles of the price bars compared to the gator's lips. If you look at that price bar angle straight up and look at the angle here. Those are very different angles. So if we placed a stop here at the green line, it would definitely be a loss. We're not comfortable with that. So what we've done is we've decided, at the red line, the red line would have been a loss. It's not a comfortable distance between here and the market. So we've moved our stop up and placed it on the green line, stop close only. And in this move, this is where you exit out. It closed about 1 tick below the gator's lips, which is the green line. Now this is a 5-minute Dow chart. In a volatile market, you always want to watch what you've got as far as the indicators the market's showing you. If you've got magic bullets, if you've got squats, by magic bullets I'm referring to squats, which that is a 1-1 squat bar. If you have fractals, if you have a change in momentum, these are all things to look at. But in this particular case, what I want you to notice is the difference of the angles between the price bars and the gator's lips. You will always want to use at least a green line stop when you have that drastic of a move away from them. Now in this instance, you had your fractal, you're in the market. Notice I pointed out measuring squats. You should know what they are by now. Last week you talked about some of the Elliott wave and different things that go on with the magic bullet, so you should know what that is. If you don't know what a measuring squat is, you need to go back and review. Here we've got circled a 3-3 squat Here I have a 3-3 squat bar. Well, in that case, I'm probably going to tighten up my stop. I'm starting to see some things change in the market. So I've gone from a red line to a green line. You've had a change in momentum, and you've also had a change in acceleration in the histogram, so you want to pay attention to everything. These are all parts of the puzzle here, so don't ignore just one. Here's another example of a green line stop. 4 of our magic bullets are present, so we're going to pay closer attention to the market. We do not want to turn a winning trade into a loser. So you notice that you've come up through here, then we have, this is our exit bar. Where I have circled, though, you've got a squat area. If you were to pull volume up, you would see the amount of volume in that area. You've got a down fractal, you've got an up fractal, you've had a change in momentum, you have divergence, and a change in acceleration. So with all these things are signals pointing, or not signals, but let's say warning signs of the market saying, hey, pay attention, I may be about to turn around. And as you can see, it did. You see where the price bars went into the gator's mouth, and you can actually see where the gator's closing his mouth. That's where we do not want to be caught, in the gator's mouth. Okay, here's another scenario. We've got here, and also notice the measuring squats on the way down, and if you look at those, they're very close. If you start from the beginning of this trend, and you measure halfway through the measuring squat, and then go again to the immediate bottom, we're pretty close. So a lot of times we're not sure at the beginning if it's a measuring squat or it's the end of a trend, but you'll know in the next 2 to 3 bars. So in this example, what I want you to notice is the double divergence you have on the AO. Look at your peaks. Okay, look at your price. You have a higher peak, a lower peak, and also a lower price. So you have divergence between price and between the AO. At that point, you have a couple different options. Now, I have 1 bar circled, which is your exit on the green line. Then look what happens. Look at this area, what happens to the alligator. So that green line stop close only was a very good place to be out. And also, if you notice, you had twin peak signals along here. Remember when I told you that you'll see a twin peak before you see across the line and a change of trend? Well, here's a very good example of that. Okay, and here's another example of a red line, green line stop. Either one. At the beginning of this trend, you would have probably wanted to use a red line stop. Notice that in this case, you wouldn't have been stopped out, but the market pulled here. But here, you would have been stopped out with a green line stop. But at this point, we now have a double divergence right here. This is the point where I probably would have changed my red line stop, pulled it up to a green line stop, because I'm starting to see some changes in the market. We have fractals, we have squats, we have a double divergence. This is where you do not want to get caught. The market can really bounce the other direction. Remember, an A wave and a C wave in the wave 4 are impulsive waves. So when a third wave is complete, you may see a very quick bounce. So at this point where we're circled, this was where our green line stop stopped us out of the market. And this was a very nice move. This was the Dow Jones on a daily. But notice that the next bar, look where it closed before it bounced back up. So that would have been a rough ride if you'd hung in there. But don't forget your magic bullets. Look at what the market is telling you. So that's the end of day 1. I know it's been a lot of information. You may want to go back and review day 1 a few times before you go on to day 2. Have a good evening. Make sure you're doing your morning pages, and keep in touch with us if you need anything.